Welcome back to the Great Primeval Show. I am the Ark Minister, and I'm joined by Ancient Realms and Hodgepodge. Today we'll be breaking down Episode 5 of Primeval Series 3, also known as Future Epidemic in North America,
Der Pilz,
in Germany, and
Un champignon venu du futur.
in France. Written by Catherine Lindstrom and Paul Mousley, and directed by Mark Everest.
Sir Richard, another character actor who's appeared in countless British productions. He appears to be a highly important businessman, someone who Lester no doubt knows. Demanding all the barrels of oil to be bought implies he is involved in the stock market. Glad to see the rich never change. This location was filmed on Tower Bridge in London, and the apartment was at Salamanca Place, London. Sir Richard sends his assistant Lloyd to go and pick up some paperwork from his apartment.
You didn't file your paperwork last night.
Lloyd begins to admire the various displays of art in Sir Richard's house when you hear the telltale sound of an anomaly opening, which Lloyd interprets as an art piece.
Stupid blighter.
And can I just say that your new piece is tremendous?
I haven't acquired anything in months.
Why does Lloyd just brush off what Sir Richard says here? Perhaps he was just too enamoured by the anomaly's shiny glow.
Never touch the investments, Lloyd.
So, are neither of you concerned about this at all? Okay. The anomaly's selective magnetism suddenly activates, taking the phone. Odd because it's not really made of metal.
Now that is cool.
He gave you one job. The music playing here is very whimsical and fairy tale-like, but with a definite sense of unease. This is the first and only time that we see this version of the future, later dubbed the far future. This area is some form of rainforest with high cliffs and mountains in the distance. A shame that we don't see more of it.
Crazy.
There is a lot of heat haze in the distance, indicating a hot climate. Some fans have speculated it as being 500 million years in the future, far enough in the future that the sun has expanded, causing Earth's global temperatures to increase. Also note the hot temperature here is part of the resolution to the episode. After taking in the vista, Lloyd then notices a bubbling and squelching mass of life behind him with accompanying creepy flute music, a consistent leitmotif throughout this episode. He investigates as the valves of this mysterious life form begin to slowly open up as he peers closer.
It's the last mistake you'll ever make.
I'm surprised Lloyd managed to make it back up the hill and through the anomaly, considering the fall he took and his current condition. Choking on his hands and knees, he makes a desperate call to his boss. As he chokes on the inhaled fungal spores, the stuff Lloyd coughs up looks like ash, which is interesting. Surely in his time of need, his employer will come through for him.
You're fired.
I guess that makes him unemployed. Though he could have gotten a job at a pharmacy. Before he gets permanently trapped in the anomaly, he drops his phone again. This time it doesn't get sucked through the anomaly, probably because it's about to close and is getting weaker. The fungus then starts to grow, covering the surrounding floor as well as Lloyd's phone. What a gruesome way to go, as we'll find out the consequences later. If this future is the furthest we have seen, then Lloyd essentially turning into Toad is canonically the last chronological event to happen in Primeval.
Lester arrives at the Ark and notices Connor having a little snooze. After being kicked out of Abby's flat last episode, it seems he didn't in fact go to stay with friends, and is sleeping at the Ark. Also, nice Ark branded blanket. Lester seems skeptical of Connor's underpants, but lets it slide. If you look on the clothes rack, you can see Connor's shirt from episode 2. An alarm goes off, but it's not the anomaly alert. It seems one of the Diactodon has escaped.
Migration instincts.
Connor, did you really think that a regular pet carrier was going to hold them in?
The titanosaurs have broken out of every enclosure Bob has built.
As the team prepares to face the intruder, Jenny speculates that it might be Helen again. This would have been interesting, but Helen is way more subtle than this.
Prepare to shoot on sight.
You'll not see nothing like the mighty Quinn.
I don't believe it.
Danny Quinn is back, having evaded capture at the end of the last episode, and is now committing more crimes. Lucky Becca ignores Jenny's orders of shooting on sight.
You've really got to do something about your security.
Look at that cheeky Becca brow. This was the second Series 3 episode to get an audio commentary, this time hosted by series producer Tim Bradley, with Ben Miller and Lucy Brown, who play Lester and Jenny respectively. Apparently this was the first episode that Jason Fleming filmed, and also this shirt is actually owned by Lucy Brown. If you look at the door Danny was behind, it was specifically added in for this scene, as this is normally the hallway. Series 3 has a lot of random sections added and or misplacements of locations in the Ark. Notably in this episode, when Lester is supposed to be arriving at the Ark, he is incorrectly walking out of a lab, away from his office. We get a zoom-out shot with a crane arm, showing the Ark logo branded on the ops room floor, accompanied by some piano music, as Danny is brought in to be questioned by Lester. Odd how they bring him past all the top secret equipment here. Danny explained how he broke in, no doubt causing hundreds of pounds worth of damage.
It cost us millions in compensation.
It's my life's ambition to fight dinosaurs, save the world.
Since when?
See, I thought we were flirting. It's so difficult to read women these days.
I really hope this is a joke, and that Danny doesn't take no for an answer.
Can you pistol whip him?
So, just a thought.
Why does Becca never listen to orders?
Mr. Quinn.
It's, Danny.
Mr. Quinn.
That's right, Lester, you put Mr. Quinn in his place.
It's not a place for chancers and wide boys.
My brother was killed by a creature. Don't ask me to pretend it didn't happen.
Can we get one episode without Danny mentioning his brother?
You've seen what I can do, and I want in.
Is this one of Danny's pickup lines? It's very interesting to think how the whole Danny wants in plotline would go if Cutter was still alive. And the current team leader, as Danny has shown several times he's not very good at taking orders. Danny would almost certainly clash with Cutter.
Lloyd!
Since Lloyd was unable to deliver the paperwork, Sir Richard returns to his apartment for it, but instead finds a pile of muck on the floor. And like anyone sane, he touches it, and even gives it a little sniff.
Touch. Don't touch.
Oh, yeah.
To no surprise, after sniffing it, he immediately starts coughing, but is in too much of a rush to be bothered. Instead, going to pick up the paperwork, but not before insulting Lloyd yet again.
Idiot. Turn the heating up, would you? Freezing.
Sir Richard is already starting to show symptoms by feeling cold, and seemingly to experience a headache as well.
Connor is still on the lookout for Sid.
Some floppy green thing.
Note the silver fire extinguishers specifically placed here for later. Oh yeah, Sarah's here. Kinda forgot about her. She's still working on the artifact, the only thing she does all series. She discovers a code that'll probably be important in a later episode.
Is that some kind of lettering?
No, it's a sequence of numbers.
Okay, some kind of code?
Yeah, but to what?
I didn't know there was going to be a code.
Note that behind Sarah, the passageway to Cutter's lab is now sealed off. Abby suddenly has a lab in the Ark now to grow plants. These plants look very sci-fi and are definitely models as opposed to actual plants. It's unclear whether they are from the past, present or future.
How's it going staying at your mate's place?
Has Abby just not noticed all of Connor's stuff in the Ark?
How's it living with your baby brother?
Note how Abby doesn't actually give much of a response here. Perhaps two Maitlands in one bed isn't a great idea.
Proper good time.
Ironic that Abby scolds Connor for letting the Diatodon roam around the Ark when she later does the same thing for Rex in Series 4, Episode 3. A big goof in this episode is that this lab, which is set up as the temperature-controlled lab, is filmed in the same location as your lab in Primeval Evolved. Even though it later gets destroyed in this episode, it doesn't affect your lab. Becca sits Danny smack bang in the middle of the ops room. Seems legit. Connor, still looking for Sid, then feels he needs to boast to Danny about his fabulous creation.
Look on a temple.
What?
Connor Temple. I invented it.
Never change, Connor. We've all been there when something clever in your head comes out wrong.
Why is that screen jumping around then?
Sid must have given it a cheeky nibble.
Don't nibble my rope.
At the risk of sounding like someone from the Old Testament, is there any sane reason why you're keeping animals in the Ark?
The Ark?
Not that one.
How did Lester find out about the Permian escapee so fast? Also, what a fantastic line. This one screen saying running system checks is the same display as seen in Series 2 Episode 5. The ADD then detects the future anomaly which closed earlier, implying it was still online but just didn't alert the team.
Christine Johnson and her men arrive unexpectedly in the Ark, much to Lester's frustration.
Christy, what an unexpected pleasure.
He looks so annoyed. Also, this is the same way he greeted her in episode 1. An odd point to note is that with all the security measures that Becca set up for the Ark, how was Christine able to invite herself in? And Lester let her stay, despite her not allowing the Ark team to do the same with her HQ. She seems to have a higher governmental clearance than Lester. Wilder is wearing a suit, which is similar to Captain Ryan wearing civilian clothes in Series 1, Episode 3. It's also possible that Christine has prepped Wilder for being the new team leader, so that he could act as a mole for Christine to spy on the ARC team.
Do we know where Jenny is?
No, sir.
Could you find her for me, please?
Yes, sir.
Now.
Becca, why else would he ask? Lester dismisses everyone who isn't a government official. Christine looks at the ADD in a suspicious way, perhaps thinking that it's detected her anomaly, so just checking that it hasn't.
Professor Cutter had no family.
Wow, as if we hadn't suffered enough with his loss. Jenny is given a box of the late professor's belongings, which includes various bits of paperwork, a 3D structure made of what look like molly mods for making molecules, and a few other unidentifiable items. A lot of the contents of Cutter's lab also appear to be boxed up in crates, though the whiteboards still have the matrix equations on them. Jenny then finds a photo of Claudia Brown, which Cutter seemingly ripped and stuck back together. This is an edited promo from Series 1, Episode 4, but note that it is a different photo to the one he ripped in Series 2, Episode 7.
When was that taken?
It wasn't. It's not me, it's Claudia Brown.
Sarah interrupts Jenny's identity crisis.
Oh my god, Sarah. You used to be somebody else.
This is the first time that she conclusively realises that she was someone else in a previous timeline, and it must be slightly unnerving for her to say the least. In the commentary, Lucy Brown mentioned that there was supposed to be a whole conversation between Jenny and Sarah here, but Tim Bradley said it got cut to be more mysterious.
Jenny, anomaly alert.
I'll cover it.
No, fine.
Damn, Sarah is just never allowed to leave the Ark, ever. The team arrive at the anomaly site in Sir Richard's apartment. We hear and see Big Ben's chiming in the distance. Apparently, production designer Michael Ralph built these investment artworks himself.
I know a lot about art, but I don't really know what I like.
You do? Didn't really strike me as your kind of thing, Connor.
Is it fungal?
Whoa.
It's lucky Abby prevents Connor from touching this, or he would have ended up like how Sir Richard will become later. Interesting that Abby is being so biosafe and hygienic here, when she didn't really care back in episode 3 when birthing baby Stanley. Abby instead gets a sample and condemns Connor to spend the rest of the episode in the Ark.
Thanks very much.
It is very unusual that they specifically want this sample analysed, when generally the team is not this safety concerned. Lester gives a tour of the Ark to Christine because they're supposedly meant to be working together with the military help she's supposed to be providing. Christine then insists that she speaks with Lester in private.
Tell the Chuckle Brothers not to touch anything.
Another fantastic Lester quote.
I don't think you've met my colleague Mark Baker.
Don't get attached.
And this is Captain Wilder.
This is kind of weird that Lester has provided a whole tour of his organisation's base to two people he has not been introduced to yet. So much for top secret. Christine gives a not-so-subtle nod to Wilder to do something in Lester's absence. Danny can be seen flirting with this lady, who regularly appears in the background of the Ark in Series 3.
Oi, trouble.
Oi, don't order that man around. He'll be your new boss in a few hours. For this scene, since it was Fleming's first episode, the crew apparently played a prank on him by adding stage weights to the box, making it very heavy to lift.
Helen Cutter had this object with her.
Christine shows Lester the picture of the artifact that Ross took in episode 1.
Never seen it in my life.
It's debatable whether Lester actually knows the artifact is even in the Ark, as Connor told Sarah to keep it a secret in the last episode so he could genuinely be telling the truth to Christine here. The pair again discuss Cutter's replacement, and Christine puts forward Wilder. Lester also mentions having, quote, a number of excellent candidates. I wonder who those people are.
Please do send in his CV. I'll add it to the pile.
Having not provided a straight answer, you can see how Christine is silently seething with rage.
Connor arrives back at the Ark with the fungal sample to test in Abby's lab. He drops some saline solution on it on a microscope slide to see how it reacts.
Radical. This fungus is toxic, it's incredibly aggressive. You need to trace anybody who's been exposed to it.
Note that Jenny and the team have just been standing in the apartment for ages, whilst Connor drove all the way back to the Ark.
If I was still a copper, I'd say that bloke was acting suspiciously.
Danny's police sixth sense kicks in as he spots one of the Chuckles acting suspiciously.
And why would I trust you, Danny?
I've got an honest face.
Considering Danny is supposed to be under arrest here, Sarah is kind of useless and just lets him roam free. We hear Jenny talking to Richard's office, showing off her good PR skills, having been able to contact them so quickly. This is also how the team knows to head to the train station to find him catching a train. Abby IDs Sir Richard from his biography book. If you pause, you can read the book's title, How Money Made Me Something. The quote, I'm off to get rich, and a somewhat funny blurb. Pause to read it. Sir Richard is still in his car and notices the fungus growing on his hand, in a very convincing and disgusting use of CGI. We also hear a distinct flute leitmotif here that's used throughout the episode and gives the fungus a unique identity and theme. Mark Baker lurks behind Connor as he exits the lab and then enters it to have a snoop, and foolishly decides to open the sealed container holding the still expanding fungus, and gives it a little touch.
Would you mind putting me down?
Maybe Baker thought it was bread yeast? In all seriousness, who in their right mind goes into a secure laboratory and thinks to themselves that the clearly mysterious and foreign substance in a secure container needs to be caressed? Mark's reaction is instant as he falls to the ground and starts suffocating, just like Lloyd. It managed to start growing on him very quickly, unlike Sir Richard, who is still 90% human. Danny enters the lab to see what's happening, and... Luckily, Danny didn't touch Mark here, but instead smartly leaves the lab and sets off the alarm.
Nobody touch him! Nobody touch him.
Oh, so the Ark has invested in their own branded hazmat suits. I'm sure that was a good use of their resources. Lucky they had these on standby. Danny and Connor get suited up to rescue the Baker. Apparently both Danny and Connor have had biohazard training, but whether they are both lying here is debatable, as they show they're not particularly biosafe in the lab later. Apparently Jason Fleming really hated wearing the hazmat suit hat. As they enter the room, the rest of the Ark personnel, Christine and Wilder, watch on. Baker is almost completely absorbed by the fungus now.
He's dead, alright.
And their check for vital signs involves just looking at him. They don't even poke him with a stick or anything.
You've killed one of my men.
You cannot seriously blame Lester for this. Thankfully he puts her in her place.
Care to explain why he was trespassing in a security zone, Christine?
How many of our men do we have inside here?
2 from the maintenance staff.
Christine is so obsessed with the Ark that she's infiltrating the ranks. These men inside were likely how Wilder was able to intercept calls of the Ark staff following the bombing, as heard in episode 4.
I want every inch of this place under surveillance.
Christine demands for more surveillance of the Ark, and we see this directly shown in the next episode. We previously saw Christine had cameras in the Ark in the last episode, so I guess she just wants more cameras installed? Christine also thinks Lester is lying about having the artifact. She is so unnecessarily over-suspicious of Lester and the Ark, who really aren't hiding much considering they are a secret organisation. Danny zips up what's left of Mark Baker, presumably in preparation for giving him a burial. Danny asks whether the fungus is
Past or future?
something that isn't actually confirmed in the episode, but generally considered to be in the future.
Does it matter?
He also points out the obvious contagion risk. Suddenly, Mark Baker starts rising like, well, some bread. Sarah then does the only useful thing this episode and alerts the pair to the body bag behind them. We then get our first look at the fungus monster, fully formed. And wow, that thing is both terrifying and grotesque. Some amazing CGI work. The way it emerges from the body bag is very well done. Danny and Connor disagree with how the Chuckle Brother wishes to rearrange the lab's furniture. Note that Lester is about to say, it's rare for him to have dealings with the creatures, and it's very fun to see his reaction to the demon risotto.
Well, this could be tricky to explain to the next of kin. Good news, he's not technically dead. Bad news, he's turned into a mushroom.
What a fantastic line. The unnamed organism dubbed the future fungus is the only non-animal threat to come out of the anomalies, unless you count the sulphurous Precambrian fog, convergence, or Pachycephalosaurus snot, I guess. This is also the second parasitic creature in the franchise, with the first being the, well, parasite from Series 1, Episode 4. The modern-day cordyceps fungus is a likely evolutionary route for this species, as it infects and later takes over its hosts, albeit arthropods like ants, not mammals. A very similar concept, also based on the cordyceps fungus, was used in The Last of Us, where it has become widespread enough to become a zombie apocalypse. Perhaps something similar could have happened in the Primeval universe had the Ark not managed to contain it in this episode. Modern cordyceps species can take around a week to kill off their host ant before releasing their spores from the corpse. When talking about the parasite, Stephen said,
"This thing's life cycle is unbelievably accelerated."
So perhaps the future fungus similarly evolved to take over hosts at a much faster rate, as it appears to fully take over a human in only an hour, if not less.
Isn't nature wonderful?
The life cycle of the future fungus is quite interesting, as it appears to start off as white spores from a fruiting body rooted to the ground, which requires something, or someone, to come near, similar to modern cordyceps. By the looks of it, it doesn't affect plants, which are seen growing around it unaffected. It also seems to be able to take on the general body form of whatever it infects, i.e. humanoid for humans, similar to xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. The fungus can also growl after it's infected a host somehow, though it was suggested that the host is still alive inside.
That thing was a man not long ago. Suppose he's still in there somewhere.
So it could be the host making noises or even calling for help. Ugh. It's interesting to note that the fungus's spores are thankfully only airborne when ejected from the fruiting body. All other instances of infection are due to direct contact, so perhaps these random patches would eventually develop fruiting bodies of their own to produce airborne spores. Like most fungi, it can't tolerate boiling temperatures of 100 degrees Celsius or more. However, because the fungus lived in a hot tropical biome, only the host creature dies when subjected to it, and spores explode out, similar to how it spreads from the fruiting body. The spores become reddish as it dries out, almost as if in a dormant state. However, when rehydrated, it becomes active again.
Moisturize me.
The only known way to destroy the fungus outright is by exposing it to extreme cold temperatures of -30 degrees Celsius. It's unclear if it can survive in water or not. The future fungus is possibly the most unfortunate and disgusting way to die in Primeval as a whole, and genuinely makes your skin crawl at the thought of being taken over by a fungal parasite. A lot of this is speculation on our part, as not much information is given in the actual episode. However, in the role-playing game book, there is considerable information provided about the future fungus, dubbed the Fungus Monster. Pause here if you want to read it.
I'll never look at athlete's foot the same way again.
The next events are intercut with the arc's fun guy. Sir Richard arrives at the train station holding his shroomy hand inside his jacket to hide it from onlookers. He also has some of the fungus growing on his neck now. Jenny, Abby and Becca arrive at the train station to search for Richie. The music playing here is weirdly energetic and very good. The train station is filmed at St. Pancras International. According to the commentary, there was an act and a half cut from the original script here, as the team was supposed to board a specific train looking for Sir Richard as it left the station, resulting in the team requiring the train to stop on the main line for them to disembark. However, Eurostar was unable to accommodate this kind of disruption to their train services, so much so that the actors weren't even allowed to board any trains, but they were allowed to stand next to them for filming. Apparently all the commuters in the background were not actors, being actual people trying to catch their trains. In fact, several people kept trying to film the Primeval cast with their camera phones. Also note how the team don't have any guns in hand during these scenes. Even Becca's holster is empty. It's likely guns were not permitted for filming within St. Pancras.
Better start making plans to evacuate.
Good luck trying to do that in any major London station.
We could be lucky, you know. Maybe he hasn't been contaminated.
He hasn't been decontaminated yet!
What kind of show would this have been if this was the case? Abby then spots Sir Richard, who then vanishes in the crowd somehow.
Sir Richard?
Richard!
A very disoriented Sir Richard becomes overwhelmed with the bright lights, sights and sounds of the busy London day, causing him to retreat into some tunnels. The fungus making him act this way. This shot was filmed at Lindsay Street Arches in London, and the St. Pancras clock has been digitally added in the background for continuity's sake. As he struggles to breathe, we then get to see him being completely taken over by the fungus in a fantastic silhouetted shot, bathed in sunlight overhead. Yeah. Note that this fungus creature, whilst similar, is a lot larger than the Baker creature, with a different design too, which is a good attention to detail. The team follow the inhumane roar and head on down into the tunnels. The tunnels were filmed at the Camden Catacombs, the same filming location as the drains in Series 2, Episode 4.
We're gonna need some light.
Jenny unknowingly emulates Carter when asking for lights in the tunnel.
Now we need torches. The most powerful you can find.
Just like every good horror story, the danger slides by the screen, just out of vision of the main characters. When they find Sir Richard in fungus form, you can see it somewhat flattening itself against the wall, no doubt avoiding the light. Also, how did it climb up there?
Take it out now!
After getting shot by this soldier, you can see the fungus creature has some level of cognitive ability, as it disables the threat against it. Again, this reinforces the idea that Sir Richard could still be alive inside. The soldier starts getting fungus, just like Mr. Baker, and we hear Jenny calling in a containment unit for this soldier, yet we never find out if he perishes or is saved.
Thankfully, this lab was specifically designed to be temperature controlled for this episode, conveniently so the team can try to bake the Baker fungus. After nothing happens...
Right, so come on, what's our plan B?
You know, just once would be nice. Has this team ever had a plan B?
Do you have a plan B?
However, when the lab hits 100 degrees Celsius... Explosive timing. Somebody call the cleaner. This worked likely because no animal can survive boiling temperatures. However, this is no animal. It's also interesting to note that there's nothing of Mark Baker left.
Result?
You can see that Danny and Connor have already formed a good friendship.
Oh, we're already firm friends.
The idea of something exploding from excess heat is very similar to the plot of Series 2 Episode 2 with the Precambrian worms. For some reason, the Ark had several flamethrowers in the armory, reasons unknown, and they plan to deep fry the Sir Richard fungus. Again, Danny insists on heading the charge, insisting he takes the flamethrowers.
Oh yes, that's a great idea. Let's send the criminal out on the city streets with a flamethrower.
Danny has clearly made a positive impression on Connor and Sarah, who defend him.
Fantastic, you've been here 5 minutes, I've already got a mutiny on my hands.
He goes, you two geniuses stay here. You're kidding. I so wanted to fire this.
As funny as it is seeing Connor not allowed to be using a flamethrower, it's even funnier that Sarah is still not allowed to leave the Ark. Ever. Lester rightly instructs Connor to continue the research on the remains of Mark Baker, to find a weakness.
I don't want any more fungus the bogeymen. The management accepts no responsibility for personal loss or injury.
Perhaps Lester should get Danny to sign one of the disclaimers.
It's a disclaimer. We don't want any nasty lawsuits if you don't come back.
Note that in this one scene there is a body double for Lester, as he is wearing a different suit.
Don't let any of your men get near it. I can't risk anyone else being infected.
Nice to see Jenny really taking safety seriously as a team leader.
Well, Danny's on his way down with flamethrowers.
We get a very nice moment of clarity from the team and the show itself as they acknowledge how weird it is that Danny is forcing himself upon the team, which the viewer can relate to feeling weird about him taking over from Professor Cutter as the lead character.
He's keen.
Come on, let's go.
Excuse me? Sorry, who put you in charge?
Again, Danny tries to use up leadership from Jenny. Not very nice for her, considering he supposedly has a crush on her.
You will respect my authority!
So look, we corner it, and then we grill it, right?
A bit blunt, but gets the job done. Thanks to Abby's protesting, however.
Okay, so we ask it nicely, and then we grill it, right?
Finally, Danny has a certain action-based form of leadership, which was intentionally different to the science-based educated guesswork leadership methods of Cutter. After the team go down the staircase, they are actually in a different filming location. Clerkenwell House of Detention, being an old mental asylum for women and children. Fittingly spooky.
Connor feels guilty over destroying Abby's new plant, and yet we never see a scene of her reaction to this. It's just glossed over. I really don't think he's to blame here, though. Sid remembers he's in this episode and reappears in the lab air vent, having previously used air vents in episode 3. Note that this air vent was another item specifically added to the Ark only for this episode.
Great, now I have to go back in.
Connor forgets his hazmat hat as he enters the lab. This questions whether he really did have biohazard training or if he is just forgetful. By pure chance, Connor realises the mistake about the fungus and heat, as the fungus has just spread its spores.
Tell Danny if he tries to burn it, it's going to spread through half of London.
Note that Connor asked for Danny to be called, kind of disrespecting Jenny's leadership. At least Sarah decides to call the correct team leader. Couldn't Connor just crawl through the air vent?
It likes heat.
Opposite.
Connor's genius quick thinking comes up with the opposite to heat, being cold.
I keep freezing.
Connor offers to sacrifice himself to the frost to prevent further spread of the fungus.
Keep going!
The frosty breath of Connor and later the other team members is actually digitally added by Framestore, as they did not actually freeze Andrew Lee Potts or the Ark set. We see the lab's temperature getting down to minus 30 degrees Celsius, well below survivable sustained temperatures for humans. Connor must know what it would be like to survive in an ice age. Thankfully, the fungus starts to die at this temperature.
Right, get him out of there.
Lester then orders for a refrigerator truck to go to deal with the Sir Richard fungus.
Split into 2 teams.
Becca, you have no business being so hardcore right now. Oh, another unnecessarily hardcore shot with Abby and her flamethrower. We get the trope of phone service cutting out at a crucial moment as Sarah attempts to phone Jenny. Richard, the fun guy, jump scares the team from a dark passageway and the team corner him.
Looks like someone sneezed.
Sarah finally gets through and informs Jenny just in time before they have a mushroom barbecue.
What? Fire doesn't work!
Dave the Lodge, you still got that truck?
We hear Danny calling Dave the Lodge. This is an in-gag, as Dave was a stand-in for the creatures and sometimes the actors as well. Also, now the phone service is fine, because plot convenience.
For a minute I thought he knew what he was doing.
Despite Danny's on-the-spot methods, the team genuinely seems impressed with him as Jenny and Abby share a smirk. Seems like Dave brought his truck very quickly to help Danny, which means Lester's refrigerator truck idea is too late. Danny again asserts dominance by stealing Jenny's phone to talk directly to Lester, and goes so far as to hang up on him.
Look, we're bringing it to the yard. Just get everything ready, alright?
No. Hello? I don't believe that.
Danny's impulsiveness shocks Lester and will have consequences for Jenny. So it was the lesser of two evils, as he did rightly say there was no way of containing it in the tunnels. The fungus is driven into the van with Danny's trademark high-pitched whistling. In the commentary, Tim Bradley was not happy with how quickly the fungus was caught and got into the van.
That was really lucky.
Yes, it's one of those that perhaps didn't quite work out as we expected.
This likely means there was an alternate capture method in the original script.
He's really overdoing the alpha male bit, isn't he?
Yeah, he kind of is. So much so that he drove off without knowing where the Ark is.
Where's that now? Show us the way to the Ark.
We see Connor siphoning off the air vents from the temperature-controlled lab to freeze the ops room. Logistically speaking, this is not the most logistical idea, because now they can't use anything in the ops room or reach Lester's office anymore. Also, calling a bigger room instead of a smaller lab uses a lot more energy. However, logical is superseded by the rule of cool.
Literal.
As damn, the ops room looks so cool with the frost everywhere.
A few minutes time, this place is going to be colder than the North Pole.
Because of all the ice!
It's most likely that all of the frost is really just salt, which is commonly used as snow and ice in Scream productions.
Oh, cold though.
Hope someone's paid the congestion charge.
This pun has a double meaning, as the London congestion charge is a real fee you need to pay to drive during the day in London, and Danny is using the alternate meaning of congestion to compare the fungus to being sick.
You're actually enjoying yourself, aren't you?
You only live once.
No offense, Danny, but there was only one man who understood, and he's not here anymore, so...
Jenny references living two lives, as well as Cutter, and we hear his musical motif from episode 1 of this series. Oh, for God's sake, even the Ark's car park is branded with the logo? This logo is everywhere.
Listen, Danny, we're going to need a little bit more time. I reckon 5 minutes should do.
Of course the fungus escapes the van as soon as this is said.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off!
Well, on a positive note, at least we've got it in the building.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely in the building, we just don't exactly know where.
The team reconvene in the hallway, and note this is one of the only times every team member is in the same shot.
We need to find it, force it down this corridor through those doors.
Ah, thankfully those fire extinguishers were placed there earlier, just for this episode. For some reason the hallway lights turn off at the end of this scene. Danny and co grab the fire extinguishers, whilst Abby and Jenny head to the frozen ops room for more. What could possibly go wrong? The audio commentary takes an unusual turn at this point in the episode, as Jason Fleming randomly turns up in the recording studio, and is welcomed by Tim, Ben and Lucy, whilst the commentary is still recording. It's unclear if he stumbled in by accident, or if he's meant to take part in the whole commentary and was just running late.
You've really got to do something about your security.
Sir Fungus has escaped through another air vent which leads directly into the ops room. Bad luck for Jenny and Abby still in there. Jenny for some reason stops to take the call before leaving.
But I'm still in here.
Jen, get out of there.
It's interesting that Danny calls Jenny Jen, as no one else calls her this. Isn't this only like the third time he's met her? Steady on. Sir Richard is feeling a little chilly and arrives in the ops room behind Jenny, somehow hanging from the ceiling like Spider-Man. Jenny's body heat draws it towards her. Just her luck to be a warm-blooded mammal. Jenny attempts to evade the mushroom, but it instinctively blocks her exit.
Abby, stay there! It's too dangerous!
Jenny still puts everyone's safety above everything else, even her own. Jenny fends the angry mushroom off with a fire extinguisher. I think that's a brand new sentence. The CGI mushroom man through the smoke is good CGI. Lucy Brown compared herself to Ripley fighting xenomorphs from Aliens for this scene, not to mention the flamethrowers from earlier.
Get away from her, you bitch!
Strange that the rest of the team just watch, with none of them coming to help. Oh come on, they're even wearing ARC-branded jackets now? Jenny's fire extinguisher quickly runs out, and the look of shock on her face is great. The cold also gets to her and she collapses, allowing the fungal abomination to come closer and infect her. Note that it does this off screen. Obviously disliking not being able to do anything, Danny finally decides to go help, after everyone else just continues to stand there. According to Jason Fleming, he apparently got a note from the producers telling him to tone down his Cockney accent, and this was his response. Cue a one-on-one fight with no blows landed. Danny only just misses the swipes from the shroom hands.
Come have a go at someone your own size. Pick on someone your own size.
Danny successfully lures the fungus away from Jenny, seeing as how he has more body heat at this point. The fungus then reaches out towards him and tries to make more of itself when... Jenny, meanwhile, lies motionless. The frozen fungus finally succumbs to the cold and falls apart. As it crumbles, it's a mixture of practical and CGI. See this behind the scenes image of the crumbles. The rest of the team, bar Lester, enter the ops room to rescue Jenny, in their fancy winter ARC-branded jackets. Connor rightly says that they mustn't touch her until the fungus growing on her is dead. However, it continues to spread.
If we take her out now, she's going to end up like that thing over there.
An impatient Danny once again tries to be the hero, but is stopped by Connor. If this was Torchwood, then there would be a strong possibility that Jenny could have become a sexy fungus creature. Ugh. The combined body heat of everyone crowding her probably isn't helping. The fungus then drops off and turns to dust, marking the incursion as over.
Jenny is brought into the side room for revival. I like how Lester's attempt to clear the desk is to take one or two things off it, whereas Connor just swipes everything onto the floor.
As long as she's been frozen quickly, there's still a chance we can bring her back.
The first useful thing Sarah has said all series. Interesting that none of the team tries CPR on Jenny, which is generally the method of restarting the heart. But I guess air is enough in this case.
What's CPR?
And Jenny is the second person that Becca let die in this series.
Not again. Please, not again.
This is an indirect mention of Stephen and Cutter's deaths. And to be honest, with the show's history of just killing off its main characters, watching this episode for the first time, anything could happen.
I've got the pulse.
Oh, thank God.
Nick. He's gone. Remember.
We hear a motif of Cutter's death music here. And if you look closely after Abby says he's gone, you can see Jenny shed a tear. Stop doing this to us. Series 3!
You're gonna go mad now.
Oh, sorry.
Is this the only time Danny actually listens to her? It's clear that he had strong feelings for her, despite them barely having any episodes together.
Hey, welcome back.
Everyone is so relieved to see Jenny's revive. It's quite touching. Later, we see an employee photographing Cutter's matrix equations. This is the last time we see part of the original matrix. Lester tells him to beat it so he can talk to Jenny.
Hey, beat it, this don't concern you.
You alright?
I'm fine.
This is likely a reference to Cutter saying,
I'll be fine.
to her in episode 3, meaning she is not in fact fine. The piano music here is also very similar to the Death of Cutter track. Jenny holds in her hand the photo of Claudia Brown from earlier, as seemingly she's contemplating her own existence now that she's gone through a near-death experience.
I'll never look at athlete's foot the same way again.
Not even Lester's dry sarcasm can make Jenny feel better, and he already knows what she wants to talk to him about. Lester's joke referring to athlete's foot being a type of foot fungus.
James, there's something I need to discuss with you.
What must be a few hours later because the frozen ops room has been thawed out, Christine Johnson returns with her golden retriever Wilder, and it seems like this time Lester has actually invited her here to announce the new team leader.
You're right. I am going to need a man just like Captain Wilder to replace Cutter.
Christine looks so happy at this, falling for Lester's obvious bait.
Oh, not Wilder himself, of course. No, he's playing much too vital a role on your own stuff. But Danny Quinn here is just like him.
If by like him you mean a maverick British actor, then yes. Though he's out of focus in this shot, Wilder looks so baffled whilst Christine is internally raging again.
I've already cleared it with the minister.
That was quick. Lester for once has the upper hand on his rival. Danny's little chuckle is great. He must be thinking he can't believe his luck. He went from fugitive from justice to breaking into a top secret government facility to landing one of the senior positions in said facility. What are the chances?
I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of each other.
Christine does her best to fake a smile as she shakes team leader number 3's hand. The ominous way she says this suggests ulterior motives. Suspicious. Danny just smiles and accepts his new role. But I love how Christine glares at Becca in this shot. She's so clearly angry here. Do we think that Wilder burst out crying on Christine's shoulder after they left?
I trust that's alright with you?
Well, if it's alright with these guys, then it's alright with me.
Wait, they didn't even ask him? What if he had changed his mind about joining? That would have been embarrassing in front of Christine.
Gov, what's the pay?
Next to nothing.
Clearly the team leader doesn't get the benefits of someone in Lester's position.
You'd be amazed how much Lester gets paid.
Try not to make a complete dog's breakfast of this, won't you?
As it would happen, Danny does in fact make a complete dog's breakfast of his new job in just a few episodes' time.
Where's Jenny?
Jenny is doing some last-minute packing from her arc locker as Danny slides into the room.
You can't leave. It's your team.
It was Cutter's, and now it's yours.
Jenny has clearly realised that she wasn't up to the task of team leader, as she was shown to be struggling to manage it through the 2 episodes she was in that role. Danny, on the other hand, instantly proved himself worthy of it.
I don't belong here anymore.
Jenny has decided that after all the stress and strain of dealing with the anomalies, not to mention the death of Nick Cutter, that she's had enough and wants a simpler life.
Danny, I died today.
Do you think if her life flashed before her eyes, she saw Claudia Brown's life too? It is weird to think that she technically did die for a few minutes before she was revived.
And I know all about Claudia Brown.
When did Danny find out about Claudia? Did he get briefed on the incident? Back when he was driving back to the Ark, he was clueless, and that was only a few hours ago.
I'm sure there's some perfectly rational explanation.
Oh, now that I'd love to hear.
Only the creators of the show could ever tell us.
Maybe we've all lived other lives.
Yeah, your doppelganger is called Emmett. It's nice that Danny tries to comfort Jenny here.
What's important is who we are right now.
This line is quite similar to what Stephen says to Cutter at the end of Series 2, Episode 1.
All you know is what's happening right here, right now.
Danny, if I stay here, I'll always be looking back, wondering who I really am.
This is referencing the semi-abandoned series arc for the original Series 3, which had Nick and Jenny stay to the end of the series, and a conclusion to the Claudia Brown plotline. Because Jenny is leaving instead, however, she wants to put it all behind her.
I just want to go and try and forget about the Ark and forget about the creatures and the anomalies. And most of all, I really want to try and forget about Nick Cutter and Claudia Brown.
This sounds kind of cruel, but in Jenny's shoes, I guess she can't live with the pain of thinking about Nick anymore.
You can try to forget him, Jenny, but you never will.
How true this is. She will, however, forget about you, as when we see her again in Series 4, Episode 6, she doesn't even question the lack of Quinn. Connor and Abby's Series 2 love theme starts playing here, which acts as both a sad and uplifting piece of music for Jenny's character exit.
Good luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
He's gonna need it. This is an interesting passing of the baton, as it were, as this is the only time we see one team leader handing over the role to the next. We don't see Jenny say goodbye to anyone except for Danny, so she must have made her farewells to the rest of the team off screen. Jenny enters the operations room for the last time to get one last look at what she's leaving behind. All the drama, character interactions, and journey she's been on since first joining. Did all the team and employees just leave to give her space? Maybe everyone's gone home to bed. She stands silently in the middle of the room, taking it all in. Her face a mix of emotions of reminiscing as well as sadness, before she turns and walks back the way she came as the music reaches its crescendo. The way she smiles as she does this is so lovely. She must be feeling so much relief in taking the burden of the Ark off her shoulders. I imagine that she's also relieved that she won't ever have to deal with a life and death issue more dangerous than getting front row seats at London Fashion Week. Save one more encounter.
I believe I've spent enough time in the company of death.
The way she leaves closely parallels her first arrival in the Ark in Series 2, Episode 1. With that, Jenny Lewis departs the show to turn over a new leaf, and to move to Not Ireland to marry a man named Mike. It's a bittersweet ending for her character, as at least she survives, but the fact that we don't get to see her again, except for one more episode, is a real shame, as she was a great character, and performed to perfection by Lucy Brown. Sid is safely back with Nancy in Connor's room as he prepares for another night in the Ark. Lester, however, confirms his suspicions that Connor has decided to move in.
Are you living here?
Instead of the usual frustration we'd expect from Lester, he actually appears rather nice towards Connor here. Maybe the loss of Jenny softened him to the rest of the team. It's also been a long day for everyone.
Have you any idea how many clauses of the health and safety guidelines this breaches? Look, I've got a small place in the city I use during the week. You can, stay there.
Connor's reaction to this is priceless. Did Lester just ask Connor to live with him? He even chucks him the keys straight away, I guess to motivate Connor to move out of the Ark ASAP. Connor seems delighted before Lester points out his lack of leg covering.
Put some trousers on.
Why were his trousers off?
Nice legs.
It only just dawns on Lester what he just initiated, as he spots the Diectodon cage in the corner of the room. Surely they could just go in the menagerie, which at this point in time is Leek's creature prison repurposed, as we're later find out in Fire and Water.
I've got a feeling I'm going to profoundly regret this.
This sets up one of the most hilarious character pairings in the show, with Connor living with Lester. Connor just pulls a goofy face and the episode ends.
The audio commentary for this episode was a little disappointing, as Lucy Brown, Ben Miller, and Jason Fleming had not seen the final episode and spent most of the time in silence as they watched it, with not that much behind the scenes information being revealed. It would have been appreciated getting some reflection from Lucy Brown about her final regular appearance on Primeval, but alas. In closing, episode 5 takes place over half a day, and it's 2 weeks between this and the intermission novel Fire and Water, with episode 6 a short amount of time later. Join us next time for our summary/review of the 4th Primeval novel Fire and Water, but stay to the end of the credits for Alpha's breakdown of Primeval Evolved Week 5.
Week 5 of Primeval Evolved was released 2 days after Episode 5, with the clue word being fungus. Again, since there is no official record of Primeval Evolved, this is all we know. Abby introduces you to Danny Quinn. He is pleased to meet you, and Jenny farewells the Ark. The interaction items are the sketchbook, which has a profile on the future fungus. Unfortunately, this was not saved anywhere. Temple TV. After an owner of a penthouse which Connor has been to died, Connor pondered on whether money can buy happiness. He also stated that his friend and colleague Jenny quit on that day because it was the time for her to move on.
It's not about how much you earn in life, it's about your friends and your family and whether you enjoy what you do. See, me, I love my job most of the time.
This week's game is Artifact Hunt, and apparently involved you helping Eve track down the artifact within the Ark in an effort to protect it. You then send a photo of the artifact to her. Thanks again for watching. We'll be back next week for more Primeval Evolved breakdowns. Alfred, signing off.